Welcome to the North Carolina Field Ministers Podcast, Changing Life, Changing Culture. This podcast offers a forum for field ministers in North Carolina to discuss their lives, their ministry, their impact on incarcerated neighbors, their viewpoints on issues that affect the currently and formerly incarcerated, and their perspectives on a variety of topics. Please note, the podcast does not officially represent the North Carolina Field Minister Program. Last year, the monthly publication, Prison Legal News, published an article about the North Carolina Field Minister Program. Prison Legal News reports on legal cases and news stories related to prisoner rights and prison conditions at the nation's prison facilities. Having been incarcerated for nearly 20 years, I view Prison Legal News as an essential source of information and an advocate for all of us who are incarcerated. However, the article about the Field Minister Program left me troubled, feeling let down and even a little betrayed. The article included several glaring inaccuracies. Immediately obvious was the author did not communicate with any participant of the program. As a graduate of the first class of this program, a current field minister, and a graduate assistant with the college branch of the program, I want to resolve these inaccuracies and clarify the misinformation, not only because of that article, but also because others hold these same myths. Please allow me to address 4 myths about the North Carolina Field Minister Program. Myth number 1, the mission of the Field Minister Program is proselytizing. Myth number 2, students are indoctrinated. Myth number 3, program participants are being exploited. Myth number 4, the program produces only preachers and chaplains. Let's go through each myth. Myth number 1, the mission of the Field Minister Program is proselytizing. The truth? The program's mission is culture change. The Prison Legal News article identified proselytizing as the mission of the Field Minister Program. To proselytize means to convert someone to one's own faith. Used in this way, proselytizing often means not just a total or singular focus on evangelizing, but doing so without any compassion and even with aggression. The picture implied here depicts a fanatic who views their target convert as merely one more name on the heavenly roll. The person to be proselytized disappears, replaced by a number. The goal becomes adding to the tally or score sheet, not helping a fellow human being. The use of the word proselytizing is intentionally condescending, and the identification is incorrect. The mission of the program is changing the prison culture. Field ministers initiate and influence positive culture change within North Carolina prisons. From the first information session before applying through graduation and deployment, this mission of culture change is emphasized by program directors and embraced by participants. When prospective applicants attend an introductory information session, they receive an information sheet which states the mission of the program is to change the prison culture from inside the culture by training long-term incarcerated persons to mentor and counsel others who are incarcerated. Absent in that mission statement are the words proselytize, evangelize, or even Christian. The long-term incarcerated participants embrace the mission because we absolutely recognize the need for culture change. We desire change, and we long to be a part of that change. The prison culture has for too long been stained by its main attributes of apathy, despair, frustration, and hopelessness, qualities that result in violence, drugs, and other counterproductive behavior. We need and want a culture of hope, social responsibility, integrity, compassion, and perseverance. A culture that produces lifelong learners, productive workforce members, and community assets. We are tired of seeing our neighbors struggle with addiction, suicide, and hopelessness. We are fed up with watching them return to prison. We want to see them break free from the cycles of addiction and incarceration. We want our neighbors to create success stories that open doors for the rest of us. Field ministers live the change we want to see, then influence others to join us on this path. We serve our incarcerated neighbors and community by mentoring, peer counseling, tutoring, encouraging, supporting, and challenging. And that is the mission of the Field Minister Program, culture change. Myth number 2, students are indoctrinated. The truth, students receive a quality education. To indoctrinate means to instruct in a body of doctrine or principles, basically to brainwash with a partisan or ideological point of view. Claiming students are being indoctrinated or brainwashed portrays students as ignorant or naive, not smart or knowledgeable enough to make decisions or even exert mental agency or power over one's thoughts. The condescension pervasive in this claim distresses me, especially when it comes from publications or people claiming to be our advocates, or even from the formerly incarcerated. The truth is, students receive a high-quality education. This education has a liberal arts basis, a system which includes a study of several disciplines and exposes students to a wide base of knowledge in order to produce well-rounded students. An education with a liberal arts basis facilitates the development of critical thinking. Students do take several Bible and theology courses, but students also take a wide array of courses in other disciplines, including communications, psychology, neuroscience, Western civilization, philosophy, logic, surveys of British and American literature, and numerous counseling classes. Some of the most important courses are 4 History of Ideas courses, where students read and explore the writings of numerous great thinkers from history. The Iliad and the Odyssey from Homer, the Aeneid by Virgil, Greek philosophers Plato and Aristotle, ancient historians Herodotus and Plutarch, Sun Tzu, Dante, Machiavelli, Hobbes and Descartes, Locke, Hume, Kant and Rousseau, Darwin, Nietzsche, Marx, Kierkegaard and Freud, W.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, and Martin Luther King Jr. Through reading and engaging with these thinkers and texts, students study the rise and development of thought and the way that certain ideas have shaped our world. This engagement teaches students to think critically about the world, people, themselves, choices and consequences, societal problems, and potential solutions. This education is the exact opposite of indoctrination. Instead, it facilitates and fosters the development of critical thinking, a skill that is key for effectiveness personally and professionally. And to anyone thinking that prisoner doesn't know anything about a quality education, before prison, I was a senior at NC State University, a major university in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I am thoroughly familiar with the quality education. And yes, NC State has a quality education, despite jokes from rivals at UNC and Chapel Hill, such as Tar Heels quarterback Drake May. The education provided by the Field Minister Program is certainly a quality education. It proficiently develops keen thinkers, skilled writers, and adept problem solvers. Myth number 3, program participants are being exploited. The truth, program participants are empowered. Portraying program participants as victims of exploitation depicts us as mere tools or even slaves without any choice or power. This claim misses the many advantages and opportunities that we either receive or create through participation. Prison does not rehabilitate people. Prison does not even offer many chances for rehabilitation. In fact, prison is inundated with obstacles to rehabilitation. Obstacles created both intentionally and unintentionally within the system. However, some of us, motivated by remorse and the consequences of our choices for others and ourselves, fight the uphill battle of rehabilitation, regardless of the obstacles. We recognize the harm we caused and want to do repair with the rest of our lives. Instead of exploiting us, the Field Minister Program creates both resources essential to the pursuit of rehabilitation and numerous significant opportunities to demonstrate that change. Previously, lifers and other long-term incarcerated persons were excluded from nearly every opportunity for formal education or actual vocational training because the limited resources are reserved for the ones with a release date or getting out relatively soon. In contrast, This program is strictly for long-term incarcerated individuals, including lifers. I have a life sentence. And for your information, in North Carolina, all life sentences have been life without the possibility of parole since 1998. For me and others like me, this program is an oasis in the desert, where once life was often defined by a drought of purpose, life now overflows with purpose. Sure, some of the stakeholders within the prison system might view the ways we serve in a manner that can be considered exploitive. So what? Their reason does not matter to us. They receive something. We receive more. What matters to us is making our life count, to use our talents and our time on this earth to do good, to help others and make a positive difference. The program, specifically the education and training involved, equips and empowers us. Whether prison officials intend to or not, we are empowered. We discover and create opportunities, then maximize those opportunities by living to serve and by prioritizing the impact our lives can have. The impressive list of achievements and contributions from field ministers proves the reality of this empowerment. And for just me, for my part, I have drafted prison reform legislation that was sponsored in the North Carolina House in 2021 and 2023. I've been published in 2 law journals, presented virtually to a national audience through the National Alliance of Higher Education in Prison, compiled a writing guide for program students, taught writing to incoming freshmen, trained writing center consultants, won and placed in writing contests, served as founding editor of one publication, and currently serve as assistant editor of another. I've counseled in coping with problematic emotions and mentored on living with purpose in prison, and much more. And I'm just one field minister. Exploited? Definitely not. Field ministers are equipped and empowered. Myth number 4. The program produces only preachers and chaplains. The truth? The program produces culture changers and influencers. Many people assume every graduate considers their life's call to be preaching. Several field ministers do preach at services in the prison, but most do not preach or want to preach. Maybe this misunderstanding derives from the degree being in pastoral ministry. After 4 years of on-site education here at Nash Correctional Institution, graduates earn a bachelor's degree in pastoral ministry with a minor in counseling. However, pastoral ministry consists of many modes of service and impact. Field ministers are trained to be servant leaders, with the emphasis on serving. Additionally, a number of field ministers do not even subscribe to the Christian faith. Program participants have included Muslims, Rastafarians, Buddhists, Messianic Jews, atheists, humanists, and some who claim no designation at all. Field ministers receive 1 class on pastoral ministry and 1 on preaching. They take many more courses that emphasize counseling and other forms of engagement, which prepare them to be culture changers and influencers, including cross-cultural communication, crisis intervention, counseling individuals with problematic emotions, counseling individuals and families with addiction and trauma, social justice and race relations, and ethics. Even the pastoral ministry class is pastoral ministry and leadership. Within the prison system, a similar misunderstanding exists. People often think field ministers intend to replace chaplains. Chaplains and field ministers work together at times, but both have unique roles. Chaplains mainly organize services. Sometimes they get involved personally. Field ministers get involved personally every day, and chaplains go home. Field ministers live on their mission field. We are always present, always ready to help from within the prisons. One of the main facets of the education is training in writing. Many of the courses are designated writing intensive, which means most of the assignments are written. Learning to write and write well enables field ministers to have a voice in society even from behind prison walls. Field ministers use their writing to positively impact the prison environment and culture by serving as a catalyst for transformation. We also endeavor to change the narrative about formerly and currently incarcerated individuals. The current false narrative depicts the incarcerated as incapable of change or unwilling to change. But truly, many of the incarcerated have already transformed and are doing remarkable things. Field ministers use their training and platform to influence the narrative. Changing the narrative, changing public opinion, is essential to mass incarceration reform. Some field ministers preach, none are chaplains. All are culture changers and influencers. To recap these 4 myths and truths about the North Carolina Field Minister Program. Myth number 1, the mission of the Field Minister Program is proselytizing. The truth, the program's mission is culture change. Myth number 2, students are indoctrinated. The truth, students receive a quality education. Myth number 3, program participants are being exploited. The truth, program participants are empowered. Myth number 4, the program produces only preachers and chaplains. The truth, the program produces culture changers and influencers. Following graduation, field ministers deploy in small teams to North Carolina prisons, aiming to change the culture from inside prisons by mentoring, counseling, and leading the way on the path of transformation. Field ministers have a chance to be the most convincing argument for mass incarceration reform, specifically the extension of opportunities for release to individuals who earn them. And once released, field ministers are prepared to be valuable citizens, assets for their neighbors, their community, and society. Thank you for listening to the North Carolina Field Ministers Podcast, Changing Lives, Changing Culture. We hope to have regular recordings from a diverse selection of field minister voices. Please continue to listen and share it with others. And thanks to Valerie Cartonio for creating this space. She truly fulfills her mission to encourage us to never stop believing in hope by seeing, hearing, caring, and holding space for all of us who are incarcerated. Please check out her Prison Pod podcast.